Welcome back to another episode of Real Chumps. We're chatting about movies, feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
This week, we finish our month-long discussion on superhero movies not based on comic books with the 1998 film The Mask of Zorro, directed by Martin Campbell, written by Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, and Randall Johnson, starring Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
In this episode, we're going to be discussing why stunt doubles should be winning Academy Awards, why the theme of revenge still makes a great superhero movie, the incredible music, and so much more. But before we roll that intro, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
To join in on the conversation, follow us on social at Real Chumps, and if at the end you absolutely loved or hated the episode, be sure to leave us a review because it really helps us get discovered. So roll that intro.
All right, question of the day.
Question of the day.
Should Zorro always have a mustache?
Should Zorro always have a mustache? That's a good question, bro. In as Zorro, not as his.
No, as Zorro, yeah, not as his civilian.
I think he should always have a mustache.
He looks so much better with the mustache. It was so weird. I forgot that he has this like taped on mustache that he later takes off. And then when he becomes Zorro, he has no mustache. I think it's weird. Especially because like the whole movie, you see him with like facial hair. And then you go to the party with his little mustache. And then he takes it off. And I'm like, wait, why? Don't do that.
I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, I agree. I think this time particularly, I was like, "Oh, did he always take off his mustache?"
Yeah,
is this the thing?
And then and then the rest of the movie, he just doesn't have the mustache as Zorro, and I'm just like, I was really peeved by it this time around. And I'm like, no, Zorro should always have a mustache.
I mean, the Zorro at the beginning of the movie has a mustache.
Yes, and traditionally, Zorro has always had a mustache. He's always had a mustache. I think this is like the first time where a Zorro does not have a mustache with Antonio Banderas. Have you seen the second one?
I have seen the second one, but it's been years.
I've never seen it, and I don't know if he had a mustache there or not.
I can't remember. I mean, it's been years. I mean, it being Zorro being part of it was the second one came out later.
Yeah, so this first one was 98, and then I think the second one was 2005?
2004?
Let me see.
Yeah, you're looking that up. Yeah. I looked it up, and I thought I put the show notes. The
Legend of Zorro. Yeah, 2005.
Yeah, 2005. Which, if I remember correctly, like, it was not well received. I remember watching it and being a little bit bummed. I don't remember why, but I remember being a little bit bummed.
I remember people saying like it just wasn't as good. I've never seen it though. Although lately I feel like it's gotten more love from people, and maybe it's just like the nostalgia of like Antonio Banderas as Zorro. But I need to watch it. I need to revisit it.
I mean, I think it's a good one to revisit. We'll probably put it on the docket at some point, but not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Let's just jump into it. That was a pretty good question. I think I'm a little now more peeved that you brought this up, and he doesn't have now that I'm thinking about it, he doesn't have a mustache. Because I'm thinking about that, it looks super great with a mustache.
Well, Antonio Banderas looks super great in anything. This movie, he has like 4 different like hairstyles.
This movie reminds me that this guy, I miss him on film, on camera.
You know what? I don't know why I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, he was in the last Indiana Jones for like 2 minutes. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember.
He was in it barely. Yeah, he was like on the boat scene, and then like he gets killed.
He was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember when he died, I was like, that's it. That's
all we get of Tony Banderas.
That's all we get of this guy. Anyway, I don't know what's the last movie I've seen him in.
I think it was that one.
Besides that one, like I still haven't seen. He's the villain in Uncharted, right?
Oh, I think maybe he is. the thing is like he's been playing these minor roles a little bit, and I'm like, I end up not like I always appreciate seeing him on camera, and I'm like, oh, he always kills it. Like I loved him as like he was ripped as the sailor.
The sailor?
Yo, yeah, in Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones. Oh, okay, I thought that was a movie, The Sailor. I was like, what?
No.
Yeah, I feel like I just haven't.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard the last Puss in Boots was really good.
You haven't seen The Last Wish?
No, I haven't.
It's phenomenal.
That's what I hear.
Literally, my girls and I watched it like about a week ago. And I didn't watch it. I was listening to it as they were watching it in the car, and I was reminded how much they did a phenomenal job with that. The Lobo, whose death, top notch. Some of the best just intro animation of a character, super phenomenal.
No, I'm looking at his filmography, and since like 2018, I haven't seen any of these movies that he's in, except for Indiana Jones.
I didn't see Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, Uncharted, did not see Conan Banshee or Doolittle. Not a ton.
I mean, if I keep scrolling down, I didn't see anything. Dude, I don't think I've seen this guy. The 33? No, did I see that?
The 30.
That was about the mine that collapsed in.
Oh yeah, in Ecuador? No,
Venezuela. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think that's the last time I think that's 2017.
Dang, it's been a hot minute, man.
I need to watch. I need to see more of him. Let's talk Zorro. So we've been talking about movies, superhero movies not based on comic books, and I know you have a love for this movie.
I do have a love for this movie,
and so we decided to put it in the docket and let's watch Mask of Zorro as part of this month-long segment that we're doing. With that said, tell me why you love this movie. Like, what's been your relationship with it?
Okay, so one, I want to preface this that this is not based off of a comic book. This is based off a little book, like a novella from way back when. I don't know if that like is cheating. I did wonder.
No, because it's not a comic book,
not a comic
right?
book, so
It's Johnston McCauley is the one that wrote these books. I think like 5 of them.
Yeah, and so to me, I don't know. There's something. I think part of it is being Latino, seeing this sort of hero of the. It's not a west, like it's a western, but it's not American western. Mm-hmm. So there's something to be said about the Latin culture, like California, Mexico, Spaniard, like fight in that era, that with American kind of like encroaching, beginning to take form, and we're gonna like with General Love. Is it Love? Right?
It's just Capitan Love.
Capitan Love. Who? Okay, we're gonna get to it, but at the end of the day, like for me, I fell in love with the character. I think like it felt like it's like slightly Batman but old school, and to me, there's just something romantic in the sense of like romanticism about that, and I love that there's this stallion. The vistas, the music is phenomenal.
James Horner, dude. I think this was my introduction to James Horner because 98. So the year prior to this, he had done Titanic.
I forgot he did Titanic.
Yeah, and so like I didn't see Titanic until like later. But anyway, this was my introduction to James Horner, and he is so good. I love James Horner.
I do too. I think part of it is like the movie adds, or the music adds so much. And this is, I mean, we look at Unbreakable, we look at The Incredibles, and we look at Zorro. All of them have music that help move the story forward, encouraging additional storytelling, additional notes that just I don't know. I love it.
And you said like there's this romanticism to this story, right? And the music just adds to it. It's not a traditional like Western themes, musical themes, which I appreciate. That it has obviously it has like the Spanish influence, but like it's very like romantic, the music, and that's something that James Horner was very good at. But yeah, I think it just adds to the romanticism of the character, of the story, and of what's happening. So yeah,
I mean, I think that he like nailed the classical Spanish and Mexican sort of like music genre that helped amplify so many beats of this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just to me, all of that, like the culmination of that, and being a kid and watching that, and I mean, it doesn't help that Catherine Zeta-Jones is amazingly gorgeous.
There's no way she's 20 though. She's not 20 years old. How old was she when this movie came out?
I'm pretty sure she was like 20 or 21, and Antonio Banderas is like 26.
No.
I think he, yeah.
No.
Dude, I'm like, yeah.
Catherine Zeta-Jones was not 20 in this movie. So let's see. She was born in 1969. This movie came out in 1998. Yeah, dude, she's 31.
Oh.
Yeah, no, the character is 20 years old, but she is not 20. Like, yeah, she's 31 in this. No way. Like,
look, and Antonio Banderas is what? He's old. Is he?
Let's see.
Yeah. That's funny that they went with it. But she could, I don't know. It's the eyes that give her away on being not 20.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas was born in 1960. So when this movie came out, he was 38.
Yeah. Wild. And he still looks great.
This guy, today? So like
both these people.
Oh, both of them. Yeah. They look great for sure.
Anyways. Okay. So with all that being said, where do you want to start with this movie? Well, actually, I want to know your perspective of this movie. What's your kind of like introduction into this?
Yeah, I don't know why I have a faint memory that we had this on VHS. Like
I 100% had this on VHS. In fact, I still have it on VHS. It's at my mom's house.
Oh, okay.
I was cleaning your house recently, and I was like, do I take this VHS copy of a couple movies?
Yeah.
Because like one VHS.
Yeah, why not?
But I was like, I don't have a VH player. I don't want to store that. And I'm like, it's fine. I'm going to leave it there. It's still there. Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh. No, we had this on VHS, and this is one of those movies. I'm pretty sure like this is a movie. This and like The Mummy.
Okay.
I constantly watched.
Dude, yes.
And we'll talk about The Mummy because we're gonna get there. But like this sense of adventure. And like it's so fun, and the romanticism that you talked about, but also like the idea of like, and I shared this in our conversation of 3:10 to Yuma. I've never been like a big Western fan,
Same.
whereas this is like it's just an adventure Western, and you have the elements of a superhero, right? A masked vigilante with an iconic form of transportation. Batcave / lair, okay, a dual identity. So like for me, this was just like a perfect recipe of elements that I love in my superheroes, but set in the 1800s. And so it's like it was for me as a young kid, it was like, wow, that's mind-boggling. And then obviously like the idea of like having like my culture somewhat represented in this. So I think that's just like I loved this movie because of those elements, and I watched it a lot growing up. I don't think I'd seen it in maybe like 8 years. It'd been maybe like a decade. It'd been a while since I'd seen this.
I think I watched it like 4 years ago. I think during COVID.
Okay.
I never revisited it. And this movie it holds up. I'm just so excited to be talking about this. So, I don't know. Any final thoughts before we get right into the meat and the potatoes?
I think the last thing I talked about how like this was like the first movie that introduced me to James Horner. It's also I think the first movie that I, as a young I must have been like 9 or 10 years old when this came out, where I as a kid was like, this was probably the movie that introduced me to the concept of like stunt work.
Oh,
Like, yeah, I'd seen
okay.
like Indiana Jones up to this point. Like, I know there was like stunts, but like this movie is seeing Anthony Hopkins at the beginning and then like Zorro doing all this acrobatic moves. It's like, there's no way Sir Anthony Hopkins is doing this, right? So as a 9-year-old kid, I was like, oh, that's a stunt double. And like we'll talk about like the fight sequences and everything, but like this, I think, was like the first movie that really like solidified like there's a whole other aspect of movies where people come in and do these stunts and like train actors and whatever. So I think that's something that really stood out to me as a kid and continues to stand out.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, rewatching it yet again, I'm just blown away by what they did in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much.
Yeah.
All right. I think I want to start with I actually want to start with the action stuff because I think that's what makes this movie as amazing as it is. Because especially as a kid, you fall in love with the fact that like you have Zorro at the very beginning, like these kids there and there's this injustice happening amongst the people, and Zorro coming out and enacting justice in front of them, and him doing all the jumps or like the jumps happening and like the things, and like you watch now, you're like, dude, that would mess up his knees, especially because like he does like they do like a foot dive.
Oh yeah.
This is a common occurrence that it's there. Quick side note: we're testing out a new thing where I'm cutting the pod right as we record. So if you see me glancing down or you like the episode's a little like wonky, it's because I'm getting used to it. I think I'm doing okay, but I just wanted to give a preface. In any case, so throughout this entire film, every action piece feels not only like grandiose,
Yeah.
but it feels so on point. It feels very exciting. Like at times, in some cases, you've got the horse sequences. You've got a fight sequence that then turns into like an extremely tall dude. Then you've got like crazy explosions. You've got all sorts of crazy things that are happening, acrobatics, that just to me, part of it is like Zorro in the 60s, I believe. It's a little bit more zany. The idea is zany, kind of like Batman, or at least it felt like they were taking their small notes of this thing of like, oh, this is like homage to some other previous Zorro. I felt like.
Sure. And I think always Zorro is, which I love about this movie, Zorro is very, not comical, but like he laughs and smiles as he's fighting in all iterations of the character, right? He's always just like, not mocking, but like what's the word I'm looking for?
I think what it is that he's toying. A fox is someone who's cunning.
Yeah.
He's playing with somebody, teasing them in a way that like because he can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what I love about like that opening sequence with Diego de la Vega, right? Like he's literally toying with Raphael and with the soldiers, and like they all are shooting at him, and he's doing all these cool acrobatic moves that somehow he escapes from. He doesn't get shot or hit, right? And I love that characteristic to this Zorro, or to all Zorros, just because it brings a sense. And we talk a lot about like how people say how Marvel has ruined comedy for them, right? Like these comedic aspects to Marvel movies, but like this is very tasteful comedic beats in the movie. It's not overdone, it's not overplayed, but it's part of the character, not Tony Stark, where he's just commenting on the ridiculousness of everything and he just happens to be funny, but like it's just a choice, because Diego de la Vega as Diego de la Vega perhaps is not necessarily a toying funny individual, but when he puts on that mask, yeah, he's toying with his enemies, with his villains, right? And I think that is such a unique taste or take on a superhero, so to speak.
I mean, we get a little bit of this with Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man's always doing quips and things like that. But I think what it is about the Zorro character is that, like, he's not super powered, right? Mm-hmm. And so his confidence, he's got confidence. He comes in and he understands the situation. He's learned to be this not only suave and cunning as Zorro, but outside of Zorro.
Yeah.
So to me, like, I love Diego and Hopkins as Zorro. I know he's not Spaniard, but he just brings this gravitas that I think, and Antonio Banderas, both as the characters that play Zorro, and one of the Murrieta brothers, that, like, provides that level of class that doesn't take it over the top, that it is tasteful. I think if anybody else that had done this, it would have been today I would say you look back at it and you're like, that's probably not right. But I think today you look at it and I'm appreciative of the care and what they did with this film, and of the care of both characters and their growth between the two movies, or throughout the movie.
Yeah.
To me, like, they're motivated by revenge.
I forget that this is a revenge movie, a dual revenge, right? I always forget that. I don't know why. And that, so I counted. It's that first, like, opening sequence with Diego de la Vega. From the beginning, introduction of the Murrieta brothers, to him getting escorted away to prison. That's 18 minutes that the movie takes to give us this, like, prologue, so to speak. Right. And it's we talked about this during our episode of The Incredibles last week, how that one's like 7-8 minutes of, like, introducing the world, introducing the characters, and then just dropping us in there. Like, perfect way to introduce a movie. This one is twice as long, but it never feels bogged down or like I'm ready to move on to the next sequence. I know this movie is about Antonio Banderas, right? But I'm having so much fun with it. And I think that's a great, like, call out to both Anthony Hopkins when he is playing Diego, and we see him, those quick shots as he interacts with the brothers, with Rafael, when he goes back home as well, and then that whole fight in his house. Like, the movie just goes, it doesn't feel rushed, it's perfectly paced, and it really sets, it's 18 minutes of setting the stage and then letting us know where this movie's going.
I think that you bringing this up because I can't, every one of these movies has had some very impactful opening setup of some kind. And in many cases, again, it's to emphasize the fact that we need to have empathy not only with like the heroes, but the villains of these stories. And Raphael, he who the character is he who plays Stuart Wilson.
Yeah,
phenomenal. I absolutely love everything about him. His arrogant mustache, the audacity that he like, and the way he carries himself, his goatee, and the fact that the whole thing is that he's gonna buy California, with their own goals. In any case, but like the fact that he steals this arch nemesis's daughter because he should have had her.
I love the line of after she gets shot. What does he say? Something along the lines of like, I would have protected her or something like.
Yeah, I would have never harmed her.
I would have never harmed her. And then Diego says it was never your job to protect her. Like that line alone, that like 3 pieces of dialogue sets this entire history that we have with these two characters. Not only is Zorro and Raphael arch nemesis, but Diego and Raphael have this history, right, between Diego's wife of what could have been of Raphael maybe, trying to pursue her and it just didn't work out and whatever, right? Like it's this dual.
Well, and not only that, but like that duel, and I love that you said that. Like, it really does that whole, because like that culmination of the action is inciting incidents that then carries the rest of the film forward. In the fact that like they now, like he's taken into custody. He doesn't have his daughter, and something has happened with the Dons that he is leaving and is gonna disappear for whatever, right? We don't know what happens, right? And not only that, but we have the boy, Alejandro and his brother, who've witnessed Zorro and experienced connect with him, and having these little things that set up and so well, because we then get the beeline. Well, and I don't know which one's the beeline story here. Beeline story is actually Don de la Vega's story, where Alejandro and his brother's story don't happen until after that intro.
Right.
With Capitan Love.
Right. And that then becomes the A story, right? The main story that we're following. I love just the introduction of the characters. I love this world that we're placed in. I love specifically how we're introduced to obviously Raphael, and we know he's plotting, right? He's getting sent back to Spain because people don't like him, and the king and queen are upset. But he plots behind, leaves property for the Dons to kind of. He plants a seed because he knows he's going to come back and request their need because he made them rich, right? By leaving them a bunch of property. What a plotting evil genius this guy is, right? And that's why he's a threat to Zorro. I just love that opening sequence. I mean, and I also just want to highlight the fact that like whoever was Anthony Hopkins' stunt double, that man that
deserves
man
awards.
Earned his paycheck and hopefully some more, because I don't know why this time it really just stood out. I'm like, Anthony Hopkins doing this? No way. But like, it was just funny.
No, Anthony Hopkins stunt double, but Antonio Banderas stunt double. With the tree scene, the fight in the Spanish party that they have. I mean, let alone the dance. We'll get to that. But he's Zorro's fighting them. Wait, was it? No, that's after. Sorry. He's in the courtyard. He's got the map. He does a whole bunch of backflips, jumps on the tree, does like freaking gymnastics over the tree. I've always loved that scene.
Yeah.
And I always just think like, this is wild. Like, whoever the stunt double absolutely loved doing this movie.
I love just the use of that stunt double in the opening sequence with Anthony Hopkins. Just great stuff.
Okay, so we talked a little bit of Raphael, and he's such a great villain, and for what he's doing. But I also think like to even add that is Capitan Love. What is it about him that adds even an extra layer of evil?
I think you have the contrast between Capitan Love, between Raphael, who he's clearly like an evil genius, right? You could even say like he's your Lex Luthor, right? He's plotting things decades in advance, right? Because he knows he's going to come back eventually and try to win back the Dons, try to win back California. And so like you have that. Whereas Capitan Love, he's just a killer. Like he just wants to capture the Murrieta brothers, capture
any bounty,
bounty,
whatever it is, and he's gonna take no for an answer. In fact, So I wanted to do this in our first season, but it's La Cabeza de Joaquin. No, there's a Amazon show of
De Joaquin Murrieta. Yeah.
the Joaquin Murrieta, and who is an actual character, and there are these generals, these U.S. They're not martial. They're like U.S. Kind of like expansion, like people. I don't know what they're called, but in that they're also super ruthless. And the more I watched the Joaquin Murrieta show, the more I realized I wanted to look back at history and realize like how much of the history is so tainted towards such atrocities that took place at that time period, and yet they're immortalized on like banners. It's kind of like, so I worked in Memphis, and there was a lot of like moments where like these plaques were getting heat because of some of the things that were being depicted as issues that should not have been. And I'm not here to be political. I'm just saying like it opened up my mind to the fact that like, oh, these like Captain Love is based on actual like individuals that like did partake, but was probably even watered down for the movie.
No, definitely. And Johnson McCulley, the author of the books, talked about Joaquin Murrieta being the actual individual that inspired him that inspired the character of Zorro. Because Joaquin Murrieta, and I remember in school, this was like in first grade in Mexico. Like we talked about Joaquin Murrieta and like how eventually he was decapitated, and they even showed this movie. I have this image just scarred in my brain of the decapitation, and then
they would do that in Mexico.
Yeah, they would do that, and then of this aristocrat who fought for the people and represented, the values that the Mexican people wanted, and then he gets his head cut off, and then they put it in like a lantern, and like his eyes were open, and it had a candle inside. I don't even know what movie it was, but I'm sure I could track it down. But like that image of him getting decapitated and then them putting his head on like a lantern and putting a candle inside.
I mean, the show is wild. They did some crazy stuff in it that you're like, okay.
But to your point, yes, I love the idea that they took these real life elements with Capitan Love and having this weird fetish of cutting people's limbs and putting them in alcohol for him to drink later. Just a weird villain. And that's what's great in a lot of times about superhero villains. Like they have these weird quirks about them that just make them iconic. And this is his weird quirk, is that he just decapitates limbs and stores them.
Yeah, I mean, and not only, but that he's ruthless. That he does not care about, quote unquote, the law.
Yeah.
He cares about winning.
Yep. Yeah. So, and again, going back to your question, like it's just a great juxtaposition between the two villains, and also like the juxtaposition between the revenge that our two Zorros want, right? One for killing his wife and taking his daughter, and the other one for killing his brother, right? It's just, I love the journey that these villains put our characters on.
Yeah, and it really, I think coming back to something you said, like the pacing is really great throughout this film. It feels, especially coming on the back of The Incredibles, I feel like both of the movies, they pack so much in these films, and yet we don't ever feel like I don't ever feel like I'm like either waiting or wishing, like I'm getting just enough of each moment.
Yeah,
which I think is just phenomenal. And when I'm like maybe wishing there, like not less wishing, but like as I see one moment close, they begin that next phase of introducing the next movement of the story that cause like another sense of conflict or whatever that helps propel us to that next portion, right? I think one of my favorite not my favorite scene, but like a favorite moment of mine is when Antonio Banderas, as Alejandro comes back to the cave, and he's like proud of himself, of like what they've accomplished, and he's become Zorro. He's taken on the embodiment of like wanting to protect and to help the people, especially after seeing Captain Love and everything that he's done with Three-Eyed Jack or Three Finger Jack.
We're gonna get to Three Finger Jack in a second.
and he's wanting to help the people.
Yeah.
And Don De La Vega, Diego, saying I'm not going, and saying he's doing his own path.
Yeah.
And Alejandro being so frustrated, like to me that's just really great storytelling. It's like phenomenal because he's been there, he's been helping him, you see him grow, and you're like, oh, they're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
As like the old Zorro to new, but it's not about that. It's about the revenge.
And I forget. I think when I think of this movie, I think of like the action sequences and those moments, right? That we love about this movie,
right?
But then we have these beautiful moments of great dialogue between our two leads, like this, where he's just kind of like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Like, and the frustration that he has, like, you've been training me for all of this. Like, do you even believe what you've been teaching me? Like, and I think this time around, I really loved like the character of Diego. He's just kind of over it. Like, I did my time for the people. Okay, like he's just like, I'm just here just to get revenge, and I appreciate that. Like I love Anthony Hopkins' performance of it. He's just kind of like, I'm done with this. I'm just here to kill this guy.
Because part of me, I'm reminded, especially at this time, with the fact that like this movie came out, in '98. I don't remember when Batman Beyond. Let's see.
Oh, the cartoon. I think that was 99, 97.
99. Okay, a year later, Batman Beyond comes out. We have a Batman who is old. Mm-hmm. He takes the seat as the back seat.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not nearly like, to me. He's still Bruce.
Yeah.
Which you want that.
Mm-hmm.
I get. Don't get me wrong. But there is something to be said about Don Diego's, like you. I love the way you put it. He's just over it.
Yeah.
He's only leveraging Alejandro in understanding that he can be the next Zorro, but only leveraging for his own means.
Yeah. And I'm not upset by that. Like, I'm okay that that's the case. This is a man that had everything taken away. And I'm okay with the decision to just be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm teaching you these things. Whether you become the next Zorro or not, that's up to you. But like, I'm just kind of need to make my way in and try to kill Raphael. And that's okay. And I'm okay with this characterization of Diego, right? He's had his adventures. He's done it for decades. And this is where he's at now. And he wants that revenge.
I mean, just some phenomenal, like main characters that we get with, with Alejandro and Don Diego and Raphael and Captain Love, that just, they are iconic, truly iconic.
Yeah.
To me. And others might disagree, but just when I think about this movie and I sit down and watch it, not only I'm every single, just like in like Incredible, I'm always, it's like reinvigorated with each of the characters. Mm-hmm. I just want to touch on Catherine Zeta-Jones as Elena Montero. Phenomenal job. I mean, she's beautiful. She's talented. Alejandro and Catherine Zeta-Jones chemistry is off the charts.
This is again 1998. This is during the time of what's her name? The Mummy. You have Brendan Fraser and
yes.
I can see her. And Rachel Weisz, right? Like, and The Mummy came out in 99. Like, this is the era of adventure movies where you have like powerful male and female leads with incredible chemistry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think they play off of each other so well, both as as Alejandro and Elena, and as Zorro and Elena, right? Like there is a very distinct chemistry between the two personas that she had, or between her and the two personas. And it's so fun. I love that aspect. Something that I miss from like Superman movies specifically,
Dude, absolutely.
is that. And actually like that I miss from like modern day superhero movies is the double identity. Right? Everyone in the MCU, everyone knows that Steve Rogers is Captain America, that Tony Stark is Iron Man, right? Like there's that idea of a secret identity doesn't exist in the MCU except for Spider-Man. But like I miss that aspect of like the romantic leads and does she know that it's him? Do they not know? And the flirting back and forth between the two personas. I miss that in my comic book movies.
You know, okay, I know I didn't think I was going to go here, but I recently watched Anyone But You.
Okay, uh-huh.
Right? You watched it in theaters.
I did, yeah.
This movie reminds me how much we lack this on-screen chemistry from leads. That that's like you could bake a cake, okay? And to me, like that movie is the epitome of like what's wrong, because the chemistry between Sydney Sweeney and what's his bucket, Mr. Six Pack Abs,
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell.
Six Pack Abs.
Come on, it's true though.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But it's like it. There's times where like I can almost see it. Almost, but it's still not the same. It's like the eyes every single time with these individuals. It's the eyes, it's the banter that is written to the scripts, and part of it could be the scripts, but I think it's just the way the characters are connected to one another. And every once in a while we get these connections on screen, and it's always magical when it does happen.
Yeah.
But I just really appreciate this in this one, and I could spend. I just the Spanish dance is absolutely top notch. We don't have to spend too much on it. I just think that like not only is it that like it's another jab between Alejandro and Captain Love, who is like he's like he knows something's wrong with Alejandro.
Yeah,
and you just can't pin it, and it drives him crazy. And then as well with Elena's character not knowing really who he is and have this mystery about him, like who is he really, and the fact that they have this dance and just Raphael's like disgust yet like intrigue or like not unsurety. I don't know what.
And I think that's what stood out to me this last time is that Alejandro does that in a way to lure Raphael, right?
Right.
I'm sure he would wanted to dance with her, but the reason he asks her to dance and to dance to a tango, right, is to get a reaction out of Raphael, to have him come back and hopefully invite him to the table with the Dons, right? And so I love this this suave persona that he creates, right? It feels again very, very Batman, very Christopher Nolan Bruce Wayne, someone who uses his Bruce Wayne persona, right, to help progress his motives as Batman.
I love you said that. I think this time around specifically, I tried to spend, because I've always loved the middle section with him at the table. He's it's a frightful thing with Zorro, like this, like playing, chumming it up with the Dons.
Yeah.
But how much nuance there is to the writing, to the delivery of the introduction of Alejandro's character to Raphael, and all the things that span him, like he came from, I'm from Spain, traveling through London and some other places.
I have the ear of the queen, and she actually You have good favor in her eyes. Oh, really? Because I thought I wasn't wanted there.
Between you and me, you know, not everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
And then you get payoffs later in that scene that such grip in the fact that like Raphael questions how much sway does he have?
Yeah.
Could it be that I can leverage him because he's an evil genius?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's so good, and it's something that like that I love about, again, as I see this as a superhero movie. It's and we know like the influence that Zorro has on Batman, right? It's after Bruce Wayne goes and sees the mark of Zorro that his parents are then killed, right? And Bob Kane was very clear about how Zorro influenced the character of Batman, but like that duality, that suave, like rich aristocrat and him portraying this character, this Bruce Wayne almost, to help push his motives as Zorro, is just perfect.
I wanted to know, is there anything that you feel like that you're like, man, I don't know if this didn't work for me, or like that you notice you're like that maybe weaker, especially coming out of watching some of the other films that we've watched in this month-long series?
I wouldn't say that it's weak, but something that really stood out is we only see Alejandro as Zorro twice in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess debatable, because he plays Zorro twice, but he does try to attempt Zorro to get his own steed,
to get the horse. Okay, yeah, sure, yeah,
right, and it's his first attempt okay, we gotta talk about that. I think I forget about that scene every single time I watch this movie, mm-hmm. and it is probably my favorite scene.
Really? Okay.
I think part of it is like it's the first meet cute between Elena and Zorro, mm-hmm. and the banter that they have, just he's smitten by her, she's smitten by him, and the banter, and then he goes off. I mean, he like runs the steps, and I just think about like her watching him, but it's like the quirkiest little, yeah. It's like the quirkiest moment of the film, but I think it's just so good, because then it goes into the fact that him trying to be Zorro, like he's only had like maybe like a week's worth of training,
yeah,
and he's out there like trying to infiltrate this to get this his horse.
I just think it's funny. I love that you mentioned that, because this last time I'm like, they interact, and then he runs up the stairs all the way up, right? And I'm like, in real time, that would have been like a 30-second jog of her just watching this man just...
That's what I'm saying.
Just for him to then look at her and then swoosh his cape.
I love it so much, dude. It's so cheesy. It's like the cheesiest part of the whole film, but I freaking love it. I don't know. But I love the fight scene too. Right after that, it's like the first kind of like real scene that we get from Alejandro, and I love that it's messy. It's not perfect. He's trying to get this horse to like go for him. The horse is like bucking like crazy. I mean, the practicality in this film, in this scene alone, is just phenomenal.
Dude, that scene when he finally calls the horse over and he jumps from the roof of that building. That's gotta be like, and then the horse moves and he just lands on the ground. One, it's hilarious. Two, ouch.
Dude, I know. I was
watching it this last time. I'm like, that guy straight up falls like 20 feet more, probably.
No padding. They don't cut.
No, they don't cut.
Like, to me, I was like, one of the biggest things, I was like, dude, that guy messed up his legs.
I tried looking up like any information on that. Nothing.
Dude, that was before the internet. And yeah. I think no one was any.
The studio was probably like, let's not talk about this, because this could come back as a lawsuit for us.
I mean, if you know any stories, please, I want to know.
Yes, if you're the stunt double in that, DM us, please. But yeah, I wouldn't say like it's a bad thing. It's something that stood out to me, that like it's great that he goes on this adventure, and we see this in all of our superhero movies, right? When the characters get their powers or the confidence to go out, they have a moment of figuring out their role as a superhero, and this is his opportunity to figure out how he's going to be Zorro and what elements he's going to portray before he puts on the full mantle of Zorro, right? But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It just stood out to me that, like, yeah, we see him as Zorro like 2 or 3 times.
Which is why I think, like, we're all a little bit mad that it took so long to get a second Zorro.
Yes. Because I think I want to see... And again, I'll watch the second movie, but I want to see a Zorro that's just, like, owns his mantle and is going out and just avenging for the people, right?
Dude, I'm telling you, man, like, if I ever get a shot, like, I would... I just think, like, there's so many great things you could do with this character.
Dude, it's in the public domain, man. You can make your own movie.
You're right. Freak.
It's in the public domain.
I have access to horses. Okay. This is the last of our superhero movies.
Yeah.
I kind of want to wrap up the last of this. I guess it's without saying this movie's phenomenal. If you haven't watched it in a while, go watch it. All of these movies, period. You should go watch them because they're phenomenal. But to me, I wanted to open up this discussion to you with the fact that, like, what are the lessons that we've learned over these superhero movies that are not based on comic books?
Something that really stood out with these 4 movies is, and I know it's, I mean, easier said than done, but, like, the focus on the characters' struggle/dilemma. We talked about Unbreakable, how this was a movie about a man who's trying to fix his marriage, his family, and who he himself is going through some kind of a midlife crisis. And we just happen to have the backdrop of superhero elements with it. The same thing with The Incredibles, right? With Bob facing a midlife crisis and unsure of what his role is and not having that fulfillment in life anymore. And going back to Chronicle, these individuals with Dane DeHaan's character of having this abuse at home and who he is and his identity and how does he overcome that. And in this case, something as not as simple, but something as basic of a storytelling tool of revenge, and taking time to flesh out why we want to cheer for these individuals who want to avenge or get revenge, right? Which is such a unique approach to superhero movies, right? Oftentimes our superheroes are portrayed as individuals who are fighting for justice and not necessarily fighting for revenge. But in this case, I'm okay, again, going back to Diego de la Vega, I'm okay with Diego just saying, dude, I'm kind of done fighting for people. I'm fighting for myself. And we took 18 minutes at the beginning of the movie for me to buy onto that. And so focusing on taking time to flesh out a character, your protagonist, and saying why this individual, this superpowered person or this vigilante, why we want to go on this journey with them, I think is so crucial.
I want to just add to the fact that, like, you know, I agree with you. I think this is why Batman always hits hard. Yeah. Is because although we may not get it, and why we sometimes, like, mock at the fact that we get his origin story so much often, but it's because it can be done so fast, and we still feel his motive, his why so strongly. Yeah. Whereas on Superman or some of these other characters, it can be sometimes really hard to get into that. I think that not only the fact that, like, it's about maybe not revenge, but, like, every single one of these movies, they took time to do the setups that were needed for those stories. Yeah. I think that when I think about what I learned is that, like, take whatever human emotion and can you take it to 9 and figure out what that is, and then make it 10 by making it super in some fashion. Yeah. We have Unbreakable with family struggles, right? And being a protector of your family, but then realizing he's gonna become protector. They took it to 9, and they took it to 10 by saying he can be a protector for others, right? And then which then helps him resolve his thing. For Chronicle, finding peace and connection when you're being in an abusive relationship, and how much it can benefit or harm you when those support systems are not there, right? And not having clear set boundaries for those individuals or whatever, right? Again, a raw specific emotion that got turned 10. And in The Incredible, like you said, like midlife crisis of trying to be something that maybe you have grown out of and wanting to relive some kind of glory day.
Yeah.
And then with Zorro, with revenge, right? And in any case, and then on top of that, like whatever frame you go, just take the time just to be thoughtful, just a little extra thought, and it can go a long way to help share these stories that are sensationalized through powers, through whatever. But we like having the human elements is what really adds the real meat to, or the substance to the films.
Yeah. And I think, we often criticize and dog on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, right? But let's look at that. Let's look at that right now. We didn't take you tried to introduce a Scott Lang that is kind of moved on. He's got this book and he's living life at his best version, and the daughter element. But then you immediately separate me from all these characters, from this dynamic, from this opportunity to have dynamic relationships and to add emotion, right? And to me, that's why that movie, it failed for many reasons, but one of the many reasons why it failed. Or even going back to like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We took 3 movies to really build out this family, the dynamics between all of them. And then you also take time in those first opening like 15 minutes to tell me the challenges that these characters are at now post Thanos, and how that you like you said, you make setups to then be paid off later.
I think that to me is the biggest lesson that I come. Look, we're in a world where superheroes are a dime a dozen in common occurrence, right? I'm here for it. I'm a freaking nerd.
Of course.
Right? I'm a nerd. I want to have more stories from superhero perspective. It makes things interesting. But I think one of the biggest things is like, if we already know the characters or have a level of or even if we don't know the characters, but even more so if we know the characters, give us time to know who we're trying to face. Because if we have sympathy towards the villain, there's a level of like confusion / wanting to maybe, or there's this desire for hope. And yet we're then disappointed because something else comes into play through the hero's actions or some other repercussion because of consequences of other people's actions, right?
Yeah.
Any of that would be beneficial to help us feel connected to the immediate story that they're trying to tell.
You said something, I think it was last episode, how doing this little exercise of watching these superhero movies not based on comic books brought you a sense of like renewed love for superhero movies. And I agree. Like, I think the last year and a half, I've just kind of been like, I'm waiting for the new DC to come out, right? I'm ready for the old DC to end and the new one to come out. And Marvel, I just want an Avengers movie. And I'm just kind of in this like limbo stage. Whereas taking this month to watch these movies, I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go back and like revisit like my favorite like 5-7 superhero movies. Because when done right, I remember why I love superhero movies. And this is why.
And I could have said more. Like, if you're feeling frustrated, like, stop complaining. Stop posting. Stop whatever. Go back and watch your Zorro. Go watch The Incredibles. Go watch Hancock if you freaking love Hancock. Like, whatever it is, take a moment to see why we have what we have today and why it's become we've become so desensitized because we have so much of it.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the first X-Men are some of the top tier movies that we don't even talk about ever.
That's true. That's a good point. I love that first X-Men. The second X-Men.
Dude, the second X-Men?
X-Men First Class.
Well, so X-Men X2
Yeah.
of the OG X-Men, I think is some of the best superhero. Is just every time when I think about superhero movies, that's the one that kind of like sticks in my brain, like as like one of the ones I'm like, we could have superhero movies like all the time. But then First Class again.
First Class is just impactful. I love that movie so much. Like Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy are just
next level, dude. Again, chemistry, dude.
Yeah.
Top level chemistry between these two, and they're not freaking. It's not male and female chemistry. It's like brotherly chemistry of like disagreements of like different opinions. Like,
there's a whole nother rant here, but there's the Academy introduced. They're going to be introducing a new category, best casting. Interesting. They should be doing stunt work, but that's neither here nor there. But
they should.
Yeah, but this, for me, First Class, it's like, yeah, that movie for me would have won like best casting because just a great cast there between the two leads there.
Yeah. So take some time, revisit some of your old classics. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No. This has been a great exercise. I love superhero movies, and I'm glad we redid this.
As me too. And I hope that you guys enjoyed our adventure of month-long of watching comic book movies that are not based on superhero movies not based on comic books. If you did enjoy any one of these episodes and you've yet to do this, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It really does help us get discovered. Or if better yet, go to YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification so you always get notified when we release a new episode.
More importantly, we want to hear from you. What did you think of Mask of Zorro or any of the previous movies that we've talked about? You can always message us or email us at you're@realchumps or find us on social @realchumps. You can also find me on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
And me at Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we start our month-long discussion on age-changing movies with 17 again.
So we're going to be looking at, again, 17 again, Big, 13 going on 30, and
a few more.
It's a unique genre that I think we should have a lot of fun with.
I'm excited for this. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it'll be good.
See you in the next one.
Later.